Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Rachel, and welcome to my best books of 2024 video. I cannot believe that we are here. This year has gone by so fast. Like, how are we doing an end of year wrap up right now? I don't feel ready for the year to end, but I also do because I'm really excited for next year. I don't know, it's just gone by way too quickly for me. But today we are going to be discussing the 10 best books that I read in 2024. So at the time of filming this, I have read 111 books, and I've had about 10 or 11 5-star reads, I want to say. So these are almost all of the 5 stars that I've read this year. It wasn't a very heavy 5-star year for me, which I am a little bit disappointed about, but the books that I read that were 5 stars definitely hit me, definitely mean a lot to me, and were obviously the standouts of my year, and I'm excited to talk about them. So I did rank these books. The rankings truly don't matter though, except for my top 3. That is locked in for sure, but on any other day I could rank books 10 through 4 completely differently. So rankings don't really matter. I'm just excited to talk about all of these books and share which books meant the most to me this year with you all. So let's get straight into it. Coming in at number 10, we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is my favorite contemporary romance that I read this year. I didn't read a whole lot of contemporary romances, but this one really stands out. Abby Jimenez has this amazing talent of writing romances that really whisk you away, make you feel so much tension and excitement, and you're kicking your feet. But at the same time, she also tackles some pretty tough topics that really hit me. Like, I teared up multiple times while reading this. Our characters went through some really hard things in this book, but her ability to kind of marry those two concepts of like a fun romance but also very real human experiences is very unique to her, and that is why I love her books and I will always pick up her books. Just for the Summer is my favorite book that I have read by her, and it is a book that I think about a lot. Justin, our male main character in this book, is amazing. He is the definition of if he wanted to, he would, and he's just everything to me. The romance in this book is beautiful, and I think about these characters a lot, which doesn't usually happen for me with contemporary romances. So this book definitely stands out as one of my best books of the year and also one of my favorite romances I've ever read. My 9th best book that I read this year is a book that I actually read very recently, and that is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I love Sally Rooney. We know this. I have given every single Sally Rooney book 5 stars, and those are like true 5 stars. It's not just because she's like an auto-buy author for me. I genuinely get that overwhelming 5-star feeling every single time I read one of her books. Her writing is just top notch. It really connects to me. I find her characters to be relatable and their emotions just leap off the page. She makes her characters feel so real, and that is why I love her books so much. Once again, a book that tackled very heavy topics and made me think a lot, and that is such a positive for me. I literally just finished this a week or two ago. I'm so glad I read it before the end of the year because it is definitely one of the best books I have ever read. My 8th favorite book that I've read this year is These Infinite Threads by Tahereh Mafi. This is book 2 in the This Woven Kingdom series, which is a Persian YA fantasy series, and I love this series so much. This series is such a highlight for me. Shout out to Erin from Booked and Busy. She is the reason that I picked up this series. Honestly, she's the reason I picked up another series here as well. I love her recommendations. She has led me to many of my favorite books, and These Infinite Threads is no exception. This series is absolutely incredible. The writing is amazing. The world is so rich, and the characters and the romance. You guys, this book is so deeply romantic and so amazing. Oh my god, I can't even talk about it because it is so spoilery if I get into why I love this book so much. It was just everything to me. I felt so much for these characters. I was very surprised by the way I felt by the time I finished this book, because I was feeling a certain way about some characters, and that really changed once I read this book, and I love when an author can make you do that. And yeah, I love the series so much. I also love books 1 and books 3. They are really strong as well. I'm really excited for the 4th book to come out. I think it is coming out in 2025. I need it very badly, but this is a series that I will just recommend over and over again. It is so strong. I think it is so underrated too. Like, more people need to be reading this because it's so much fun. The world is so cool and the romance is incredible, especially for a YA book, and it's just one that lives in my mind all the time. My next favorite book that I read this year is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Hi. Is it 2008? No. I just picked up the Hunger Games trilogy this year, and oh my god, it's so good. Obviously so worth the hype, and the first book in the series is my favorite. I am obsessed with this book. I think about it all the time. I think it's incredible. I think it holds up very well, whether you read this when you were like in middle school or are reading it as an adult. I really think that it can hit everyone. I think that the topics in in this book are evergreen and ever present and are always relevant and can be very relatable at all times. It's a really amazing dystopian story. I love the characters, I love the action, I love the writing style. The Hunger Games is life. Honestly, it's just so good. Such an immediate 5-star too. Like as soon as I started it, I was like, yep, this writing is so working for me. I can see the story so clearly, and I'm just obsessed with The Hunger Games forever. My next favorite book that I read in 2024 was Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. I actually think this was my first 5-star read of the year, and so well deserved. This series simultaneously makes me feel so happy, so hopeful, such a celebration of joy and life and love, while also making me feel very sad and emotional. And once again, I mean, that seems to be a theme here in my favorite books. Alice Oseman just does a great job of kind of like teetering that line. And this was one of my favorite volumes, which was really exciting to me because I don't know, I feel like the further I get into a series, I tend to just always think back to the early books in the series as my favorite, but this one really stood out to me, and some of the things that Charlie and Nick go through in this book I found to be relatable and made me tear up a lot, and I just felt so happy after I finished this book. I just love Heartstopper so much. I think the final volume is coming out in 2025, which is crazy. I'm very sad that the series will be ending, but it's definitely going to be one that I reread for years to come. All right, we are now moving into our top 5, which is very exciting. So my number 5 favorite book that I read this year is Reign of Shadow and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick. This is the first book in the Legacy series. It is a dark fantasy romance series, and it is so good, you guys. This is my favorite dark fantasy romance series. There are 3 books out now, but I've only read the first 2. I still haven't picked up the 3rd book, but I'm going to probably in January. But both books were 5 stars. I just decided to pick the first book because I think I like it a little bit more, but honestly, they are both great. The Legacy series is kind of an urban fantasy, and we follow Fae, we follow Legacy, which are kind of like deluxe Fae. We have vampires, we have witches. We have a lot going on. There is a lot of political intrigue in the series and really intense romance and so many different characters. It becomes multi-POV. I just love the series so much. It really works for me. I've discovered that Melissa K. Rorick is one of my new favorite fantasy romance authors this year. I read the Lady of Darkness series, which was definitely a highlight of my year as well. And then I went into the Legacy series, and this is just so good, so automatically incredible. It is definitely darker, so if you're interested in picking it up, please check out the trigger warnings. But I just absolutely loved it. The mental health representation in this book is amazing. Melissa K. Rorick does such a good job with that, and I just love the series so much, and I'm really excited to pick up book 3. My 4th favorite book that I read in 2024 is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I love Quicksilver so much. I did not know a lot about it going in, which was such a fun experience for me, and I feel like it is a pretty unique fantasy romance. I love the setting that our main character starts out in, the absolute chaos of how she ends up getting into this fairy realm. Kingfisher, oh my god, I am obsessed with Kingfisher. When I first met him, I was like, I don't know about this one team. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about our male main character, and then he made me absolutely fall in love with him. So I love that. I love when a book surprises me, and this book was just full of surprises. The ending was absolutely insane. I cannot wait for the sequel, which I also think is coming out next year, and I just think that this book is so much fun. This is a book that I think about rereading all the time, which to me is such a sign of an all-time favorite book, a book that has really left its mark on me, and it's just one of the best fantasy romances that I've read in such a long time. It is absolutely top tier to me. This is a great example of a fantasy romance that has an interesting plot going on, as well as a really great romance. All right, we are now at our top 3, which is just so crazy. So my 3rd favorite book that I read in 2024, I read this towards the beginning of the year. I want to say in February or March, so it feels like it has been quite a while since I've picked this book up, but it left its mark on me, and I'm sure it will be no surprise to any of you. Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is the book in the Kinder's Curse saga series. This is the best book in my opinion. It is so incredible. I loved reading this because I read Spark of the Everflame. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Not a perfect book, but I enjoyed it. And then I went into the 2nd book shortly after, and I just love that feeling when you start a book and you're like, oh my god, wait, this is going to be a 5-star, isn't it? Like, this is going to be a 5-star. And because I didn't have that experience with the first book, it was just so exciting to pick this up and realize, oh my God, book 2 is better. This is incredible. I have to tell everyone. And I absolutely loved reading this. I feel like I did not shut up about this book this year. And the Kindred's Curse saga is just such a highlight for me. The romance development in this book is so good, which is wild because like, it's still very, very slow burn. This series has the most slow burn romance ever, oh my God. But Penn Cole just has crafted a beautiful story and amazing characters, and their dynamic is just addicting. I love our 2 main characters in this book, and all of the side characters become so important in this book too. The Found Family is absolutely amazing. Glow of the Everflame is such a standout book to me. Here's hoping we get the finale, Burn of the Everflame, next year. I'm probably going to reread the whole series because I want to be as fresh as possible, so I can't wait to dive back in to Glow. It's just such a special book to me. Once again, one of my favorite fantasy romances that I have ever read. I would recommend this to anyone who loves fantasy romance, or if you're getting into fantasy romance. The Kindred's Curse saga is such a good place to start, and Glow of the Everflame is the superstar of that series. All right, so we are now at my top 2 favorite books that I read this year. And this is hard because these 2 books are so different and I like them for very different reasons. So it kind of feels like they're both my best book of the year because they're not even comparable. But I kind of just went with like my knee-jerk gut reaction of what was my favorite book that I read. And there is one book that just stuck with me that I read earlier this year that I just think about all the time. And so I made that my number 1. I'm sure you guys know what it is, but before we get there, we have to talk about the absolute masterpiece that is my second favorite book I read this year, The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. I just did a reading vlog reading this book if you want more in-depth thoughts, but this is an incredible character-driven fantasy. Oh my God. You will cry when you read this book. This book is so emotional, such a gut punch, and so incredible. The commentary on being a woman living in a patriarchal society, motherhood, family dynamics, duty, sacrifice. It is incredible. M.L. Wong is a genius, and I don't know, this book has like left its mark on me in such an emotional and intense way. It is a book I will think about for the rest of my life. It is a book that I recommend to anyone. Like, I don't care what your genre preference is. I think everyone should read this book. It is so beautifully written, so character driven, which is why I love it so much. It is a masterpiece of a book. And it's a book that I put off for such a long time. Like, I have owned this book for a while, but it was one of those like, oh, I'm nervous about picking it up because I have high expectations. What if I don't love it? If you feel that way, please pick it up because you're going to love it. It is such an incredible, well-deserved 5-star, amazing book. It has permanently latched itself to my soul. All right, besties, we are at the number 1 spot. I'm sure it is obvious if you've been watching my videos this year. I actually read this book in February, so it's been quite a while since I have discussed this, but my best book of 2024 could be nothing else other than When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is one of the most incredible fantasy romances that I have ever read. It is one of the most unique fantasy romances that I have ever read. The love story is haunting and beautiful and like devastating and so grand. The world is so incredibly atmospheric. The fantasy elements are amazing. The use of dragons are like nothing I have ever seen in any other book. The characters are so incredible, and there are so many layers to this book and to this story. It is a story that absolutely transports you and makes you feel so much. If a fantasy romance can make me feel, make me emotional, it's getting a 5-star from me. Like, I need that so much, and this book absolutely delivers that. It's also a book that has an incredible plot while also having an incredible romance, and that is my absolute favorite type of fantasy romance. I love the split that we have there, and it was also kind of a surprise for me because I had read one other book by this author, and that book is To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, and I wasn't super crazy about it. I gave it 3 stars, and I wasn't really interested in continuing on with that series. I heard about this book just like a couple of weeks before it came out in the beginning of the year, and I decided to give it a try because the cover was so cool and because I knew that it had to do with like dragons, so I was like, I'll give it a shot. Maybe I will like something else by this author. And to think there's a version of our world where I did not pick this book up because I didn't want to try another book by this author. This is incredible. I feel like it is so different from her other book as well, and I just think about it all the time. It means so much to me. It is emotional and like so big and epic and incredible, and I cannot wait to see what she does with the sequel. And Con, and Rave are characters that will live in my head forever. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is one of the best fantasy romances that I've ever read in my life, and it means so much. I cannot wait to reread it next year in anticipation of book 2. It is so unique, so beautiful, absolutely swept me away, and is such an easy answer for my best book of 2024. All right, my loves, so that is it. Those were my best books of 2024. I know I already said this at the beginning of the video, but I cannot believe we're done. That's it. 2024 reading is over. I am so excited for 2025, you guys. I feel like there are such amazing books coming out next year. I also am excited for just like a fresh start. I love the beginning of the year. I love going onto Goodreads, setting my new reading goal for the year and being at 0 books for the year. The way that my brain works, I look at all of these books that I've read as like, these are my 2024 books. Obviously not all of them came out in 2024, but these are the books that I just classify as my 2024 books. And I cannot wait to see what my 2025 books are going to be, what books are going to just wreck me next year, what books are going to define my reading next year. I'm so excited for that. 2024 was a good reading year. I obviously read some amazing books. I have some new all-time favorites, but it wasn't my best reading year. I will say, like, looking back at 2022, 2023, I think that those years were a little bit better. I read more and I think I had more 5 stars to choose from. So I'm actually really excited to just start fresh next year and hopefully read a lot more of my favorites. One of the ways that I want to do that, I talk about bucket list books, books that I have wanted to read for so long, books that I say, well, one day I'll read those. I'll read these books before I die. I'm not waiting anymore. I don't know why I've been doing that, but I just realized, like, I need to read those books now. Like, what are we waiting for? Why are we putting off books that feel like they're going to be 5 stars, but I'm intimidated by them or I'm worried I'm not going to love them? I'm not doing that in 2025. So that is one of my main goals for next year, is to pick up books that intimidate me, pick up books that I think I'm going to love, because like, why am I delaying my happiness? I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to that. There are so many amazing series that I want to tackle, and I just cannot wait to see what books are going to stand out next year. So I am so fired up for next year, and I just can't wait for another year on BookTube. Thank you guys so much for another incredible year on BookTube. Whether you have been here from the beginning of my channel or you literally just found me today, I'm really happy that you're here and I'm so appreciative. My BookTube anniversary, I think, is January 4th, so just like within the next week. It has been one of the greatest joys of my life to create this channel, create this community, talk to so many of you all, and share my passion for reading and fantasy romance and just being absolutely obsessed with books. So thank you guys so much for all of the support. I would love to hear down in the comments what was the best book that you read in 2024, or if you wanted to leave an emoji to let me know that you've made it to this point in the video, go ahead and leave the fairy emoji. It's my favorite emoji, so we have to do it for my best books of the year. Please make sure that you are following me on Instagram and Goodreads. Both of those are always linked down below. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I love you all so much, and I will catch you guys next year.